Hey guys, it's Thankful Thursday, and it's Rachel here, and I'm here with Kel. I look absolutely exhausted because I am. I don't think the heat that we've had over here has particularly helped my energy levels, but yeah, here I am, and this week we are going to look at an anonymous oh no, actually this question came from feedback, from the feedback videos that Tracy does on a Friday, and we've been asked, I have a lot of issues that are entangled, almost intrinsically linked with my eating disorder behaviours. Can I deal with one issue at a time, and if not, how do I deal with the whole of it? I've had quite a think about this question, and I actually first want to say to the person who posed this question that it's actually a really insightful perspective that you already have on what is going on for you at the moment, and to recognise that an eating disorder is far more than the food you're putting in your mouth, or throwing up, or weight, or those kinds of body issues, and it is very much linked to other issues. From the question itself, it's difficult to completely know what issues you're talking about here, but I'm guessing that it's very core issues that are at the forefront of what you would deal with in therapy. I'm going to use an example of what I think the viewer is asking in this question, and I'm going to use a personal example. My weight gain was incredibly tied to the body weight that I was when I was raped. So to expand on that, when I was abused, I was a healthy body weight for my height. I had boobs and a woman's body, and that body, not that it was because I had that body that I was abused, but that size, that weight, that feminine shape is the body which was raped. And so by reducing my size, this had nothing to do with wanting to be thinner particularly, or craving to be a size 0, or societal pressures. It felt like something that was very innate, and something that was a normal and natural reaction. And so, ignoring the restricting that was going on and all of that, it was very much about reducing my size, so for the sole reason, not necessarily of being thinner, but so I wasn't the body weight that I was. Now, I know a very close friend who works not exactly in the same way as me, but who went the other way, who, in order to protect herself, gained weight instead of losing weight, and it was about doing something different, changing that body that was her. And so, obviously for me, before I even put food in my mouth or began to recover, I had to really be aware of how difficult it was going to be for me to become a healthy weight, and the recollections that would come with being that size. So it wasn't to do with being fat, it wasn't to do with being heavier, it was to do with having a body and owning a woman's body, because ultimately, as a female, if I am to gain weight and be my healthy size, a woman of my age, of 28, will have boobs and a stomach and a bum, and that is a normal way to be once you've been through puberty, when you're like in your teenage years. And so not only did I have to deal with all the issues of fearing being fat, and fearing the food, and fearing being heavier and wearing a bigger size and all of those things, my behaviours were so tightly linked to not wanting to have that body. I don't know what example the person who posed this question is looking at here. Maybe they could write to me and I could expand on this, or maybe they feel comfortable responding to this video. But when something is so tightly linked like that, it does become impossibly difficult to recover, and I stand by that. And I'm not saying that because I've been able to recover I'm this amazing person or anything. It just means that I had a core issue that needed challenging in my recovery, and that was those fears of being a normal size. And those fears expanded, well, those fears extended the anorexic thoughts and feelings I was having. And I know that there's very few people whose eating disorder is just their eating disorder, and I know that a high majority have had abuse issues or something like that. There is something that is very linked to their eating disorder. And so my advice in terms of dealing with all of that is to be in therapy, is to explore these issues. If you have issues with abandonment or anxieties around social issues and all of these things, like in terms of trying to challenge them, seem to be making your eating disorder worse, you need to be getting some support. And I've said this before, that support does not have to be therapy. I recommend therapy simply because you're dealing with a professional who's been trained with these things, but family, friends, all of those things can help this. It is hard enough to recover from an eating disorder, to eat regularly, to maintain a normal weight, and all of those things. And you know, as you start to change those things, you will begin to realise that your behaviours are linked to a much, much deeper issue than just food and weight. And when you're eating disordered, I guess it becomes about food and weight, because you're either starving yourself and so all you can think about is food, or you're binging and purging and your body physically, emotionally gets into this cycle. Whether you're overeating to comfort yourself, whatever it is, food does become the predominant problem, I guess, and why it's called an eating disorder. But as you start to challenge the food, and the food kind of not takes a second place, but it kind of, if you're in a routine with your eating and you're doing that, you're going to realise what a lot of your triggers are, and you're going to realise how linked they are to food. And so your gut reaction is going to be to maybe, so for example for me, I am given attention by a male and it feels intruding. I automatically don't want to eat because I don't want to have this body. Now I'm at a point now where that does not happen, but I know for a lot of people that can be an issue. So in terms of trying to deal with things one at a time, yes, deal with things step by step. You know, you can't do everything at once, but at the same time you need to see the bigger picture, and you need to see where you're going with it. And just because things become challenging when you're recovering, and maybe triggering issues in your eating disorder, it doesn't mean that you can't do it. And you know, fear is something very, very powerful, and it is something that holds a lot of people back. And I hope that what these videos can show, and what the freedom fighters can show, is that despite having fear, we can move forward. And as linked as your issues are to your eating disorder, I guess it's always going to be that way, because you wouldn't have an eating disorder if you didn't have issues. And so beginning to explore those issues, I would say look at it as a whole thing. But if you can't challenge every single thing at once. But it did happen with me that, you know, in terms of having to eat the food, challenging the food, it did mean I gained weight. And so gaining weight means that I'm becoming more of a woman, and becoming more of a woman was linked to all of the abuse. And it does become incredibly difficult and overwhelming. But it is something that you can do, and it is something that can be worked through. And you know, this is why having people to talk to, this is why having perhaps a therapist or somebody you trust can really, really help you just, you know, deal with these things. And you know, if something's scaring you or frightening you and you feel yourself holding back, take courage and have faith that you do have the strength and energy and motivation and will to be able to overcome this, because you can overcome this. And no matter how linked your eating disorder is to past issues or abuse issues or something that's happening in your present, you can move beyond that, and you can recover, and you can deal with your issues, and they can then become something that isn't incredibly overwhelming for you. Alright guys, I hope I've covered that. It was kind of a difficult one, but yeah, okay, bye bye.